how we use on-chain data to make investment decisions. Yeah, I'll just jump right in. So, KPI graphs of successful projects, generally follow this pattern. And you see this like time and time again through like multiple crypto boom busts, like bull bear market cycles. So for some new project and in some emerging space, they'll have like some traction. But like what's really important is that you see the exponential growth. Is like the y-axis can still be very small. Like they might be doing tens of thousands or like hundreds of thousands of dollars in monthly volume. And like most people like write that off as it's just a toy. But it's important to see that if the graph is growing exponentially and people generally underestimate exponential growth, that can very quickly balloon and spiral into some like massive volume and like massive business for this project. And oftentimes it just takes like one major catalyst to like trigger some big spike in volume. And like we saw this with DeFi summer in 2020. We saw this with NFTs a year later in 2021. So, just because something is like kind of bubbling and under the surface and hasn't broken out yet, doesn't mean that I can't do so in the future. And obviously, as these things become big, then it attracts a lot of short-term speculators, people who want to flip and like make a quick buck. And after the speculative frenzy, you get a retracement. But like what's really important is like when the graph bottoms out, it's like where it bottoms out is like higher than where it was before. And you can really see this with Bitcoin price. When Bitcoin had these bubbles in like 2013, 2017, 2022. But what's important is like where it retraces is like higher than where it was before. And that's what kind of the skeptics of crypto miss out on, is that like the long-term arc of crypto is still like positive. And I also want to caveat by saying that we generally invest in projects that are still pre-product. So the examples I'll give are examples of projects that we invested when there was already some volume and traction. But like when we're investing in pre-seed and seed, oftentimes you're still going to have to use intuition and bet on an emerging space and the founders without really having data to back that up. So this is a lot of theory. Let me just jump right into a few examples in our portfolio. So this is a good one with SuperRare. SuperRare, we invested around mid 2020, and Super has existed since early 2018. And as you can see here in the top graph, volumes, they were still doing like 500K in like monthly volume. And this was in the middle of DeFi summer, where like Uniswap and DEXs were doing hundreds of millions, billions in monthly volume. So people were just kind of writing off NFTs as a toy. There was a lot of too cool for school vibes, where like DeFi degens thumbed their nose towards NFTs. What's really important is that SuperRare was having like about 40 to 50% month over month growth. And like we saw like this growth, plus there was a really active and passionate collector and artist community in SuperRare. And that was one of the big reasons why we decided to invest. And obviously in March 2021, that's when Beeple did the big sale, the $69 million sale at Christie's. And that got a bunch of mainstream press coverage. A lot of new money flowed into NFTs. And that's when things really kind of skyrocketed, became exponential. And obviously volumes come down from there. But what's important to know is that volumes today are still higher than when SuperRare started. And it shows that there's a long-term sustainable market for crypto art and NFTs. So this is SuperRare as one example. OpenSea as another example. So this graph only goes to June 2018, but OpenSea really started end of 2017. And when we invested in OpenSea, they were doing about 4 times the volume of their competitor at the time, which is Rarebits. And Devin and Alex were really hustling, living inside Discords, being quick to partner with new NFT projects, get them listed on OpenSea, get the volume on OpenSea. And as a result of the execution, they out-hustled Rarebits. And OpenSea is the company we know today. Rarebits shut down in early 2020. And like even throughout that time period, you can see OpenSea volume really kind of oscillated. And just similarly to SuperRare, throughout the 2020 DeFi summer, it never really had its moment until 2021, and like suddenly NFTs were the big new thing. Like influencers, everyone wanted to do NFT drops, and OpenSea really rode that macro wave really well. And then obviously the NFT skeptics and bears point to how volumes are down 90% from all-time high. Well, what's important to know is that the company is in a much better position than it was pre-NFT bull market. And like we're like continue to be extremely bullish on the long-term like potential of OpenSea and NFTs. So those are two NFT examples. And the last example to share with you is Nexus Mutual. So we invested in Nexus Mutual in mid to late 2019. So this was a few months after Nexus launched. And I got really excited about Nexus because I was one of the first users of Nexus, and I was looking for a way to get buy insurance coverage for the money I had in DeFi smart contracts. And I built Nexus Tracker at the time. This was before Dune existed, so it was like really one of the first data projects on Ethereum that got on-chain data before Dune Analytics built all the infrastructure data pipeline to make that really easy to get and digest. So we invested in around September, and at the time you could see some like moderate steady growth in Nexus. They were doing about this is a graph on active cover, so they were selling about 6 figures of insurance cover at the time, which is like a modest amount, but it's still really tiny compared to how much money is locked in DeFi protocols and smart contracts. And they kind of had some modest growth until really is around mid 2020. So it was like June, July. That's when Compound launched the comp token. That really triggered the yield farming craze, and Nexus kind of rode that macro wave really well through DeFi summer. And as you can see in like the next two graphs, the early graphs just like kind of turns into a rounding error as suddenly they went from 6 figures in smart contract cover sold to over $1 billion at its very peak. And since then, as DeFi yields have come down and like money has left DeFi, obviously the amount insured on Nexus has come down, but it's still higher than where it was, not only when Nexus started out, but also at the beginning of DeFi summer. So it shows like projects that have long-term potential don't spiral down to zero. They have some floor and that floor is higher than where it was when the project first started. So these graphs, it seems like simple enough how to read investment graphs, right? You just look at a graph that goes up and to the right, and then you just invest based on that. But I think what's really unique about crypto is there's a lot of external factors that can really muddle the data. So, you have to take the data into context. And this is really the meat of my talk is like, what are the different variables that can muddle the data and why it's important to have context for like what data you're looking at. So here are 4 examples I'm going to talk about. So, you have Ponzi tokenomics, yield farming, wash trading, airdrop farming. And all of these things are really easy to do in Web3 compared to Web2, because it's very easy to spin up an address. People have pseudonymous address that can't really be linked to each other. So it's very easy for projects to artificially inflate their KPI numbers. Whereas for companies like Uber, Airbnb, these big Web2 companies, there's some sort of identity mechanism that presents like the Sybil nature of that, where you have to tie these usernames, accounts to emails, logins. But in Web3, it's a lot easier to just spin up a farm of thousands of addresses and just game their KPI numbers. So let me walk through a couple of these examples. So like Ponzi-nomics. So this sounds really stupid, but and it's really surprising how many investors fall for this. But just because a Ponzi graph is like going up and to the right doesn't mean that it has product market fit. And like a lot of people forget that is they see like things are growing exponentially, but forget that if you look at the context of how the mechanism of this project is designed, it's really a Ponzi. And eventually reflexivity works in both directions. And kind of the classic example of this is the whole play to earn mania in crypto back in 2021. And for context of what play to earn is basically you earn tokens for using the mechanics sort of for like playing this game. And you also earn tokens from inviting and getting more users into this game. So that's literally like a multi-level marketing scheme. And you people talk about recruiting players and users in the Philippines and these developing countries. But really what they're talking about is just a Ponzi. And Axie Infinity was the largest play to earn game. And for a time period in like 2021, people saw that this is going to be the breakout game in crypto, is Web3 gaming has its moment. But as you can see here from the Masari graph, people forget reflexivity works in both directions. So when revenue at its peak, Axie was actually doing more revenue and fees than Ethereum L1, which was pretty crazy. But fast forward a year or two later, and now they're doing about $10,000 in monthly revenue. And that's like a very, very steep drop from their very peak when they're doing 8-9 figures in monthly revenue, and annualized monthly revenue. So this shows why you have to take this context into account when looking at graphs, making sure that the token mechanics is properly designed. It's not just a Ponzi. Another example to bring up is yield farming. So I think paying people with tokens to use your product is not product market fit. And this is another fact that a lot of people forget is when they look at a graph and see like how much total value locked is in the protocol, how much volume they're doing. The question is all this usage organic or is it incentivized? And an issue with projects nowadays is they're really eager to get to market and get a lot of users and traction really early. So they launch the product by at the same time they incentivize users. And that's not a good sign because you basically muddle all your data of whether or not the usage you're getting for your product is real or organic product market fit, or it's kind of short-termers who are interested in using your product just to get the yield. And as soon as you turn the spigot off, they leave your product. And I think of yield farming as kind of like a growth hack where it's rocket fuel for a project that already has product market fit. You want to help it scale, but not something that you should use when the product is still pre-product market fit when you just launched. And the example I gave here, so this is in the NFT collateralized lending and borrowing market. So the graph to look at is the orange part, which is BenDAO. So NFTFi has been the market leader of NFT collateralized loans for a long time, and then kind of early mid last year, there's this new project called BenDAO that came out and quickly got a lot of market share away from NFTFi, got a lot of volume. And then, people, especially on Twitter, say that this is proof that, BenDAO is taking over the market, that peer-to-pool lending is the way to go for the future. But if you actually dive into their docs, what you see is this one line right here that says, that's for the lending and borrowing incentives. So 40% of the token supply is being allocated to pay people to use their product, whether to lend or borrow. And that solves a lot of the mystery of why this product came out of nowhere and suddenly got a lot of volume. It's because a lot of this volume is just inorganic and fake. And as soon as they turn the spigot off, as soon as the incentives end, then kind of this volume will dry up. So this is like another important thing to keep in mind for early stage projects is don't launch aggressive yield farming program right when the product is launched, because you'll have no idea whether your usage is real or if it's just organic, or if it's real or if it's just fake like volume. And this ties to kind of the third point. So yield farming and wash trading are kind of closely related. So, this example I gave here for wash trading deals with NFT marketplaces. So you can see the stark contrast in the top graph and the bottom graph. So the important thing to see is the blue part of the graph, which is OpenSea's market share of like all NFT marketplace volume. And if you were to just look at the top graph by itself, which is without the wash trading filter, you can see that OpenSea just lost most of its market share, like just in a matter of weeks in early 2022 to upstart competitors like LookSware and X2Y2. But what's really a crazy stat is if you were to apply heuristics for wash trading filter, almost all of LookSware and X2Y2 volume is fake. It's just wash trading. And you can see exact numbers here. It's 98% of LookSware, 85% of X2Y2. And like once you toggle the filter back on, you can see that OpenSea still is the dominant market leader. And a lot of these new upstart marketplaces that are trying to copy OpenSea and use token incentives, aggressive growth marketing, growth hacking to get volume, that's just fake and it just disappears over time. And I guess one question to ask is like, how do you know this volume is fake? How do you know it's wash trading? Well, there's a lot of heuristics you can apply. There's common obvious examples are they're kind of trading collections that have zero royalties. So, as you sell back and forth between addresses, there's no fees that are going back to the original creators. So it's a lot more profitable to wash trade a handful of collections that have zero royalties. And when you see those collections are doing like 90% of the volume, it's probably fake. You can also see these NFTs that are like ping-ponging between addresses. So it'll be traded from like wallet A to like wallet B to wallet C and then back to wallet A. That's also another heuristic that it's wash trading. So me, along with a couple of other Dune wizards, have like built out these wash trading filters. And like that's really helpful context today, as you can see like how much of the NFT volume is really just wash trading and it's not organic. And the last sort of pitfall to make when like reading Dune graphs is, so far what we've talked about are Dune graphs of projects that have tokens. And like when there's tokens and financial incentives, it's very easy to muddle the data. But the question is, what about projects that don't have tokens? Is there a chance that that volume is fake and inorganic? And the answer is actually yes. And this happens actually quite a lot nowadays with projects that might accidentally leak or hint that they're going to launch a token in like their Discord or community chats. And as a result, people start, airdrop farming is the term, where they start using the protocol across multiple different wallets. So in the hopes that they earn the tokens from being an early user of the project. And it's actually quite remarkable what percentage of usage now is fake. And this is an example from like actually one of our portfolio companies, Hop Protocol. So Hop Protocol was unique in the fact that when they launched their token, they were the first project to pay people or to pay like kind of on-chain detectives to find all these fake addresses and like pay them 25% finder's fee of what the Sybil attackers would have gotten. And they ran this program for a couple of weeks. And in the end, they found that 33% of eligible recipients were fake. And this is just the amount that Hop Protocol and the open source community of on-chain detectives were able to find. So the actual number might actually even be higher than this. So this was a kind of a fun side project for me. During those 2 weeks, I was actually one of the on-chain detectives, like trying to find link together wallets. This is a screenshot from a GitHub request I made, kind of linking together 20 addresses that were all connected to each other, had very similar transaction behavior, and we're just using Hop for the sake of trying to get as many tokens as possible when the airdrop came out. And there's a lot more examples like this. You can find airdrop farms of like hundreds of addresses. This goes to show like how many projects nowadays the usage is really being gamed, because people are speculating that there's going to be a token, and therefore they're using the project across like hundreds, thousands of addresses just to get the token. And actually through the Hop like detective work that I did, I actually found a lot of other projects like Galaxy and others that did not really spend a lot of time of filtering out fake usage and just kind of blindly gave out their token to everyone who used the protocol. So these are pretty sophisticated groups nowadays that are using a lot of these new projects, and they're doing it across hundreds of wallets. Actually, some of them even hire people, kind of Amazon Mechanical Turk like a farm of people who will use who will interact with wallets in certain ways to try to hide the linkage between them, and do that across all like up and coming protocols in the hope that they launch a token. So this is another thing to keep in mind. Going back, so the first 3 points, Ponzi tokenomics, yield farming, wash trading, these apply to projects that are post token launch, and you kind of have to take their KPI graphs as a grain of salt. And then the 4th point, airdrop farming, is pre-token launch, where you have to also question whether or not these graphs are organic. The usage of these graphs are organic, or it's also fake. And this ties to my point at the beginning, where even when you see these common patterns with Dune graphs and their KPIs, you still need to have important context and not just look at the graphs in a vacuum. You got to see it's kind of more of an art rather than science, where you rely on your intuition and like just kind of qualitatively knowing users, knowing people in the community. Is all this usage real? Or you see all this usage, but asking around, knowing people in the crypto native community, you can't point to a single person that's a passionate user of this product. And that usually raises a lot of red flags. Great, so that's all I got. We have a few questions actually. Okay, so this is from Kevin Tanaka from Corner. How do you decide if the gain shared does not get given back once incentives are removed? Example, if bot users like the new entrance UX. I guess I don't really understand the question. Well, I guess I think what you're asking is like when the incentive spigots gets turned off, like how do you know whether or not the protocol will continue to have usage? And like I said, this is more of like a art rather than a science. Is like when the data is like so muddled at that point, you kind of have to rely on your intuition of knowing like who the top power users are. And this is actually something you can actually go into the data, is like looking at who the top power users are of this protocol and seeing if these are kind of publicly known identities. Are they just trading shops that are using the protocol because they're just trying to earn the token, or are these actual users, and then go off of there. And I think the bridging space is actually one good example right now, where Hop doesn't have an incentivized program right now. So it's fair to say that like most of their usage is organic, versus when you look at like other bridges, like cross-chain bridges, they're like really heavily incentivizing their usage to get market share. And as a result, a lot of the usage is kind of fake or like wash trading.
So how much of your kind of formula is a mixture of, as Nick said, purists versus tourists, kind of that feeling, the originality, the authenticity versus the data versus, your experience using, a protocol? And how do you weigh those different factors in your investment decisions?
Yeah. I'd say, yeah, it's just like it's kind of like it ties back to the purist versus tourist framework, where you kind of rely on your gut feel of is the team of this protocol interested in launching this thing because they're interested in making a quick buck, and as a result, they're going to rely on really aggressive growth marketing tactics to get usage, even though like almost all of that is fake. Or do they actually believe in the protocol they're building? They're doing something new and unique that hasn't existed before, and they're not really keen on using all this growth hacking because it's not sustainable long term, and they actually want to get real users and are like setting up calls with their power users to understand their pain points. As a VC's job, that's like kind of what you're supposed to like filter out is talking to founders, talking to users, and understanding, having a gut feel for like what they're interested in.